Hello and welcome to another episode of Allo and Ace podcast. I'm the Allosexual Skylar.
I'm the Asexual Jessi.
Jessi, welcome to episode 18.
18 big ones.
Are you going to argue the number we're on? Or are you good?
No, I'm good. I know
Okay,
it's 18.
good.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. So,
I wish everyone had this view.
you know, we could start recording these as video and releasing them.
We've thought about that, but that feels a little intense. I'm not going to lie.
You feel like you have to be a little more put together and angles and all that, or are you good?
Not necessarily, but aesthetic is important to me, as
Sure.
we know. So I think that it could be helpful to have clips out there of different parts of the podcast.
I do think if we finished one of the rooms, it could be our podcast room. I don't know. And then we could have like formal things.
Yes.
But I know that you like recording in bed.
I do.
With stuff just thrown on top of the mattress. Very professional.
Very professional.
Very classy.
No, but I feel like there's something so real about the fact that we're literally just in our bedroom, in our bed, doing this, having this. It's like we're having our own discussion and folks are listening in on the discussion that we're having.
It is true.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a realness factor to it. So if we made the podcast room a bit cozy, you know,
Your mainness came out.
Mainness, Midwest, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, we should do what we always do. This is an asexual podcast that discusses sex.
What? Whoa.
And it can be triggering to some people, especially if we discuss things like self-harm, SA, and sex, generally speaking.
It can be triggering because of the details that we might get into.
There could also be things that we don't list that could be triggering. We don't know what will trigger you. Only you know what will trigger you. So,
and sometimes you might not know what
Yeah.
will trigger you either. So if you do realize that you're in a place that might be triggering, please, 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 please stop and take care of yourself.
I do want to say that we are never intentionally trying to be, I don't know, gross or whatever.
Yeah, never.
So,
No, but I do have something to say relating to that when we get into it.
So we apologize in advance if we are more crude than you might prefer. I don't know.
I don't know either. But we also aren't professionals. I'm sorry. I wish we were, but we're not.
We'll give you a refund.
We'll give you a refund.
If you don't like it, we'll give you a refund.
Yeah. So here we are, speaking about our experiences in our relationship and in our marriage and in relationships with others and talking about the hard stuff and the good stuff. And we hope you continue to enjoy.
And we are on most socials. There are probably a few that we're not on. But if you feel like you want to reach out to us, drop us a DM. We just do a search for Allo and Ace or Allo and Ace podcast, and you'll probably find us. And if you want to email us, you can do so at alloandacepodcast@gmail.com.
I'd say the place that we are most active is Instagram. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, we've actually gotten a few messages on Reddit recently, and so there's that. Wherever you message us, we'll try to message you back. We will say that the formatting on TikTok is not great. So
yeah, that's true.
If you initially reach out to us on TikTok, it would probably be easier on Instagram. But if that's not your jam, it's not your jam. So.
Yeah, we'll talk to you wherever. Speaking of talking to you wherever, I don't know if I should say this, but...
Oh, the phone number?
Yeah. Guys, we got a phone number for the Allo and Ace podcast. So if you want to talk to us, we will. And if you want to leave us a message, questions, whatever, well, we'll listen to them and go from there.
Do we want to give out the phone number right now and put it in the show notes?
Yeah, let's do it.
Now, the thing is, if you call, it will not be answered. So if you call and leave a voicemail, you can certainly do that. If you text, it'll probably get a response. And then we do have someone that wants a phone call. They asked us if we'd be willing to call them to talk about some difficult things. And we would love to do that. We've said this from the beginning, like we are still relatively new as far as our listener count. So right now, I mean, I don't know when you're listening to this. I'm listening to this right now at 5:45 p.m. But we could be at a point where it's not feasible for us to...
Wait, what does the time of day have to do with that? I thought you were going to say what today's date is.
Is it the 19th?
It's the 19th of August, 2024.
I'm listening to it at August 19th at 5:46 p.m. in the year of our Lord 2024.
Okay.
So,
okay.
What I mean by that is right now it is reasonable for us to message everyone who messages us. But we
hope to continue that for as long as possible.
But in 10 years, we don't know what that looks like. So until it becomes like overwhelming where we have like 300 messages a day or something crazy, we will continue on that path.
We love getting messages like we say every single episode. Please continue to reach out. If you have the smallest thought of maybe I should reach out, do it. I don't think you'll regret it. Do you think anybody regrets reaching out?
Well, I don't want to speak for anyone. I hope that they don't, but I'm sure that they certainly could.
It just seems like the interactions we've had have been pretty great. So please keep reaching out. That's all we're saying here.
All right. So if you want to send us a voicemail or a text message or what you may,
or schedule a phone call with us.
Our Google Voice number is 385 area code in the U.S., 645-3651. So again, 1-385-645-3651.
That's so exciting. That makes me so excited. Okay. Also, I don't want to bring this up, but I'm going to. Skylar has the cutest purpley looking tumbler. And it's so cute. And I just want him to laser in Allo and Ace podcast into it.
Well, maybe I will.
Maybe you should. That's all I'm going to say about that because I can't get into it further because I'm sick of dangling a carrot in front of everybody. I promise you it's going to happen. I promise.
Nobody cares anymore.
I know.
Sorry. It's been 84 years.
Pretty much.
All right, should we get going on this episode?
Yeah. Can we, you know how we were calling it Educational Moments of the Week?
Well, first I have to ask you how you're doing.
I'm doing pretty good.
I didn't ask yet.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Jessi.
Yeah?
How's it going?
Pretty good.
That's way better than last time.
You know what? I don't think I've been able to genuinely and honestly say pretty good in a little while. I had an amazing session with my therapist today.
That's great.
I know.
That's a plug for therapy, I think.
That is a plug for therapy.
I think I've been suggesting you go to therapy for probably the whole time that I've known you.
Yeah.
For not reasons for asexuality, but for other reasons.
Yeah.
And how do you feel? Do you feel like you are gaining a lot of value from therapy?
Yeah.
That's good.
I do. It's a very safe space for me to just rattle off. And I don't ever do that. Sometimes
I walk by and I hear multiple F words by you.
Yeah.
So your therapist is probably pretty cool with whatever you want to say and however you want to say it.
My therapist is amazing. I'm very thankful for her.
That's great.
Yeah. Pretty good. Anyway, how are you?
You know, we had a little short chat before we started recording this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you and we just see a lot of great stuff happening in the next 6 years.
We do. I'm very hopeful.
And so I think that there's things in our lives that we are wanting to improve. And I think that the next 6 years are going to be vital for us to do that. And we are in a position currently to be able to do that. So I think that's great.
Right. And honestly, a big part of that is doing this podcast and having this impact, whatever that looks like. It's been a big deal to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've gotten some really heartfelt messages recently that have meant a lot to us. So it's the reason why we continue to do this. And I think that as more and more people share this podcast with others, we've seen it on Reddit where someone will respond to someone's problem or question that they're having in the asexual community. And they'll say, oh, episode whatever was really good on the Allo and Ace podcast. And, the reviews that people leave, all these things help us to, be able to grow this podcast into something that can potentially be helpful. We actually talked about this the other day. It seems like, the few asexual podcasts that we really know about, the ones that are, really active, they're more so, I would say, on like asexuality, generally speaking, with like how it is in media, or the ace couple, they do a lot of like am I the asshole type episodes,
which is wonderful,
and that's great. We may be one of the few, if not only, I don't know that there's a lot where, we're talking about the hard issues in relationships.
Actually, this is a call to action for anybody listening. If you have any other resources that are similar to ours, please send it our way. We're very intrigued and very curious about it.
I know that, for instance, Ace Dad Advice and stuff like that, like they do things on Instagram and write books, and Tracy is kind of on the beginning of her podcast and journey in the dating world and what she sees. Sounds fake but okay. I think there are a couple friends, and they just talk about kind of current events that are happening and things like that. So it's interesting. I think there's a whole slew of, on the spectrum of podcast topics and things like that now that we've started this, and we're talking about the asexual relationships, mixed orientation relationships, and what that looks like, and the issues. And so I can't say that, that's how it's always going to be. I'm sure that we'll get to a point where we might be answering or dissecting maybe questions on Reddit or something that we see.
Who knows? What's amazing is just evolving in general.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about a milestone real quick that I'm pretty proud of. I think it's incredible. Allo and Ace podcast has had over 10,000 plays or listens now. And we're only on episode 18. And I don't know what that means, but it feels big. It feels amazing to know that people have been impacted, or what feels like a good impact anyway, over 10,000 times.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's great. And I feel like, the numbers, I don't want to say like it's all about the numbers or anything. To me, when we think of the numbers, because I know that just on YouTube, for instance, the Ace couple, they'll have, a couple thousand views like within 24 hours on each episode that they release.
Yeah.
So they have quite the listenership, if you will, especially if like they're getting that much just on YouTube, which YouTube is a great place for people to listen to podcasts and do all that. So,
and they've been building that audience for a long time.
Yeah, they've been doing it for at least, I think, 4 years or more.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so to us, the listener numbers isn't to dictate whether the podcast is worth it or valuable or anything. It's more so because we understand how many people are asexual out there, and that the number,
we think we understand.
and the number is higher than reported. And so it just means that there's more and more people that could potentially benefit from the discussions that we have.
Right. And our activity engagement is really amazing. Like, you guys are honestly amazing with how much you reach out, how much you engage with our posts on Instagram. I love it. I love it so much, and it's so appreciated. So thank you so much for getting to this milestone with us and staying here with us and being a part of these discussions.
Yeah.
Okay, should we finally get into it?
16 minutes later.
I know. Okay, so
Any clarifications?
well, I wanted to say we were calling them educational moments. Exactly. But I'm almost thinking, like, what if we called them like a spark? Like any spark moments? Because I feel like that could be a spark of
Good or bad.
good or bad. It could be a spark of education. It could be a spark of inspiration, whatever, thoughtfulness.
Yeah.
Thought. So I want to maybe call it that from now on. We'll see if that changes again. But spark moments.
Spark.
I don't think that was the same feeling.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same ring, but
No. So
any sparks?
any sparks? Yeah, I think there were some sparks over the last week. I had the opportunity to talk with somebody from my childhood, and that's been interesting. He's a listener. He's been listening ever since I shared the podcast info with him. He's been listening to all the episodes, and as he's been listening, he has been commenting and asking questions, and it's really a unique and special thing to be able to kind of dive back into the past after you figured yourself out in this way and relive some of these moments that you're like, whoa, this is how I actually felt in that moment. Kind of take it back a bit, and own it in your way that you need to. So I think that sparked some interesting conversations, not only with him, but I think it sparked conversations with you and I as well. So I just want to give a shout out to that. I also had somebody else reach back out that had been a part of this journey, or the beginning of this journey without me realizing it, a few years ago. And I briefly talked about this person a few episodes ago. It was the person that I had decided to chat with for a bit. He reached out asking some questions, and that was also interesting to dive into that and own those moments again. So I know that those moments can be triggering. Fortunately enough, this time it wasn't really like that for me.
Well, and one thing that we've heard from people is just a lot of people don't understand asexuality.
Yeah,
And I think we even talked about this on the podcast. Again, you're going to see less and less of me referring back to episode X or Y, because we talk so much now that I don't, and I mentioned this, I don't know sometimes where the podcast ends and our normal discussions begin.
Right.
So I feel like we have said this where, I didn't, or you, neither of us knew a lot about asexuality.
No.
Until we had to know.
Exactly.
And so, when someone comes out to their partner as asexual, a lot of times that's the first time they've ever heard of it. I mean, I was even talking to someone about it recently, and they said, well, what's the difference between bisexual and asexual?
And to us, it's like a laugh. It's like, really? Oh, wait. Wow.
But
there's still so much work to be done here,
and it was a genuine question. Like, there was no ill intent. There was no like mockery or anything.
No.
It was really like, I don't know what that means, you know? And so we're going to continue to learn as we do this podcast, and Jessi's going to continue to learn about herself, not to speak for you, but it's just an observation.
Right. And you're going to continue learning about yourself
Yeah.
as well and your role in this relationship.
Well, and just as you've had to learn about yourself and your sexual orientation, I've had to learn about myself and my sexual orientation.
Yeah.
And say, but do I need that?
Right. It's been a massive growing experience for both of us.
Yeah.
Definitely. Last week when we did the podcast, I talked about how I was trying to figure out when I actually figured out I was asexual.
July 24th.
Yes, it was July 24th of 2023. It was last year. It's been just over a year. And the most amazing thing about trying to figure that out is that I had pretty much documented different feelings I was having a few days leading up to figuring it out, the day of figuring it out, and the days following figuring it out.
Which is nice because you've actually, you know, with this app, you've documented the last 8 years on a daily basis.
Yeah, which is crazy. So the app we're talking about is Marco Polo. I am a massive fan of that app. I have religiously used it every single day for the last 8 years, maybe even 9 years. Yeah. Oh my gosh, 9 years. I think it's been 9. And it's really allowed me to go back and watch things and how I reacted to things and how I'm different now.
Well, especially now that there's a scroll feature.
Yeah.
And you could scroll by years and days.
That's true. So it let me, I was terrified. I'm not going to lie. For 2 reasons. I'm just going to be honest here and say this particular conversation that I knew that I could find this specific documentation in was with the best friend that is no longer a best friend. And that still has its painful moments. I'm not going to lie. But I was very determined. And it was the first time I was going back in this chat to try to find this information. And so I listened to myself leading up to figuring this out, and it is honestly just wild because I was in the deepest amounts of denial. My persona, my sexual persona, was at its highest, in its highest form.
I think we want to remind, like, at this point, you thought you were demisexual. For the previous 10 months to that day.
I thought I was demisexual, and I was like owning the hell out of that. But don't say I'm asexual.
Yep.
Which is funny because it's like, I didn't even really know what asexual was, but because of how it's been portrayed, I was like, don't say I'm asexual, I'm demisexual. And it just so happens to be under the ace umbrella, but don't say I'm asexual. How denial-some of me, right?
Well, and it's interesting because there's a podcaster in Utah whose daughter had come out as asexual. And I think we kind of just were like, whatever, don't really know what that means. And then, you being demisexual, again, we didn't really look into like asexuality.
I cannot believe we didn't look into it more.
We just looked at demi.
I put the blinders on.
And we talked about this, how I was the one that was like doing more research and sending you quotes and sending you descriptions and sending you things and be like, well, does this fit? Does this fit?
Yeah. Do you feel, before you looked at me and said, Jessi, are you asexual? Or do you think you might be asexual? Did you feel like that before that moment? Come on, come clean.
I don't know that I had a full understanding of it, so I don't think so.
You think it sparked in the same moment it sparked for me, like, whoa.
I think that there were things that weren't aligning, because if you're demi and you love me and we have a strong emotional connection, then me saying, would you like to do this thing, shouldn't come off as a thing you have to like put a lot of thought into.
Yes, but can't you be demisexual and sex averse or sex repulsed?
I would say that it's less likely.
Okay. Well, for whatever reason, I was in the most denial. It was like, what is it, vampires with garlic? Like, it was like, stay the hell away from me. That is not me. I was so adamant that I love sex. Of course I enjoy sex. That is not how I feel. Oh my gosh. It was crazy. Honestly, it was bananas. And so I'm listening to this part of me, this persona that I had. And now, a year later, and I am shocked by it. I am shooketh because I'm listening to myself get on Marco Polo and send a polo to my best friend and say, me and Skylar just had sex and it was so good. And like, not to say that it wasn't fine, I'm sure. But honestly though, it wasn't me talking. It was so persona trying to act a certain way, a sexual way.
Like on a physical level, your physical body responding tied with your sexual persona, it was good.
It was, yep, it worked out great. So I'm listening to this a year later talk about like bragging about the sex we just had. And I'm just kind of shaking my head and rolling my eyes at myself. And like, I don't know, maybe that's not very nice of me to do because it's me doing that to myself. But wow,
it's like reading a teenage journal of being like, so-and-so just broke up with me. I'm so heartbroken. I don't know how I'm ever going to live. And you just reading it back and be like, what
honestly,
was I
wait,
thinking?
That is a good take because guess what? In that moment of being a teenager, you think it's the end of the fucking world. Like it feels so real. It feels so painful and so difficult and so hard. And then obviously 10 years later, you're like, oh my gosh, what a spaz. Wow.
Yeah.
That is exactly right.
But it doesn't change how you felt as a 16-year-old or whatever.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. It still felt that way. And so I'm listening to myself talk about this and in this way and talk about how, well, of course I still like sex and this and that. And then you see this person just a few days later, literally 2 days later. And in these polos, in these videos that I'm sending, I'm like, man, my brain feels like it's on fire. I feel like everything is crashing around me. It's crazy. So many things are coming into my brain at lightning speed. I don't know what to make of this. And you know what's even worse to see those is I was falling apart. Literally, probably every hour I was falling apart in those days. In the day that I found out, in the days after, I was falling apart. And in these polos, I look like I'm holding it together a lot. And I was not holding it together. I was scared out of my mind because I didn't know anything about myself any longer is what it felt like. I felt like I was nothing.
And I don't feel like I fully grasped like how you were feeling. And I know that your friend at the time didn't really understand what that meant.
No, she needed help in understanding and I didn't even understand. Everything was such a mess. Do you remember me crying so much that first week? Or do you not feel like you saw that? Because I was crying all the time. I'm trying to piece together if I was silently crying, you know?
I don't remember it fully. Cause I remember me asking the question because we were on the main street driving home. Like we were just minutes from our house.
Yeah.
I remember that. And I wonder if maybe not blinders, but I wonder maybe the relief I was feeling wasn't allowing me to see the crumbling
Maybe.
And the not relief that you were feeling.
Oh, man. It's one of the most painful things to have been working through and continue to work through right now. I could tell, though, in these polos that I had sent. So when you send a video in this app, it's called sending a polo. You're sending a polo. When I was sending these polos, I could see the exhaustion on my face. My eyes were swollen, a bit red. I knew what was up watching them back. And I was trying to answer all these questions. And it was painful to relive just how much I was so confused. But I knew that it was correct. I knew there was no denying it. So that first day was like a big mind F, okay? And then that night and the next day and the following several days, just crumbling everywhere. And so it's amazing to see those videos, but it's so painful all at the same time. Like, holy shit, we've done this for a year now, Skylar, and look at where we're at. And look how much we've talked about. Look how much we've communicated. Look how much love and kindness and curiosity has happened over the last year. Right?
Well, this being episode 18, let's assume it goes on an hour. We've probably have spent 25, 30 hours talking about this on a podcast level, but we've probably have talked 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
On a personal, between us level.
Right. And this is all, through every trigger that has happened, learning these triggers, right? And I still don't have them all down. I'm still figuring it out.
Well, I wanted to add that, when the problem is when you tell someone, oh, I'm asexual, or like in that moment when you had that realization, for some reason, people want you to have all the answers right away. Like, what does that mean? And you don't know.
You're a newborn, man. You are freshly born, and like, I know that it's right. I know it's the right thing, but I have so much to learn and unlearn.
And the thing is that if you don't have the correct answer to something, then there are people who are going to question and push back against your reality.
I can't even imagine going through that a year ago and having you not believe it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you know how easily I would have gone back to persona and conforming? Because my persona didn't die. My sexual persona didn't die. I wasn't aware of it until, 2 weeks later? Is that when we had tried to have sex again?
Yeah, the beginning of August.
Yeah. So maybe a week or two later is when I was put in the situation of being sexual, and I realized, oh my gosh, I have had this thing protecting me since puberty about how I really feel about these things. And it's one of the trickiest things to understand for yourself, a persona that you didn't even know you had, and so tricky for your partner as well. There are so many different emotions that come from either both sides, And part of me wanted to call this episode The Masks We Wear, but I don't like this thought of, in my head, when I visualize a mask, I feel like I can visualize myself putting a mask on and taking it off. But that's not how it felt for me. It didn't feel like this mask that I would put on knowingly and take off knowingly.
Well, and I knew that, so most people probably don't know this, that I am the one who primarily comes up with like the Instagram posts that are not like pictures of us.
I come up with the emotional, sentimental, personal pictures and captions to those, and Skylar does the text pictures, fonts, whatever.
And I knew, like, when you read the one 2 days ago or a couple posts ago, I knew that you weren't going to fully like the quote because it talked about the mask.
Yeah. I
But
did have an instant interesting reaction to it.
And I saw it.
I was like,
But the reason why I felt like it fit is because the quote in and of itself, it's not saying that you yourself are putting on a mask. It's the mask that is put, like, forced upon you.
yes.
By societal expectations and that type of thing. So it's still a mask, but it's not a mask that you yourself chose to put on. You know, like in the movie Mask with Jim Carrey, and he can't take it off.
Yeah.
Like it's forced on there and he's like trying to pry it off and he can't.
I actually
like
had
that.
a different reference that I thought of.
Yeah.
Did you ever see The Man in the Iron Mask?
Yes.
With Leonardo DiCaprio,
Yeah.
which kind of sorry to bring him up, but that poor man was forced into this mask, right?
Yeah, so I don't think you need to look at it like you yourself are choosing to wear a mask and put it on.
The reason I'm saying that is because we have had messages about personas come in a bunch of times. And we see these two different sides to this. One side is from the asexual, and they're like, holy shit, I didn't know I had this mask, this persona.
Yeah, for 10 years, for 20 years, 30 years, 5 years, whatever it is.
I had no idea that I was just being compliant to myself because of what society has pushed on me. And now that I know who I am in this way, I can see it so clearly. So you have the asexual that's not even aware that they have this persona or mask. And then it comes off, and it is painful to know, one, that you've put yourself through so many very vulnerable things. Very vulnerable things when you shouldn't have been. And two, the feeling that you got one pulled over on you by yourself, like you weren't trying to be fake or act. That was not a part of the equation, you know? You didn't realize. You almost thought that it was just normal that you did that. Like everyone has a sexual persona. And I do think that a lot of people do have sexual personas that they put on for those moments, right? But this is out of safety. This is out of security. This is out of self-preservation. And then the other side of this is how the allo partner feels when they hear that you had a sexual persona. From what I've seen, it has been a reaction of, so you've been faking it this whole time with me? Whoa. I wasn't faking it. I didn't realize. I didn't know. And it's like this instant, it's so painful on both sides to understand. And that's why this episode feels tense to me, because I know the problems that happen and how deep these personas go and how painful it is to unravel them or have them die. And I know how painful it is to be let in on the fact that there was a persona in your relationship in your most intimate moments.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I was looking back at the first 5 years of when things happened, I would never think that you weren't into it.
I know.
That you didn't enjoy it, that it wasn't a great time.
I know, but that goes to show just how much of a part of it becomes to you.
And so it
is ingrained.
So it could be easy for me as the allosexual partner to be like, bullshit.
I know. That's what makes this so hard. It's so hard. Both people are experiencing a level of pain with something that is incredibly vulnerable. Because this isn't... You can have a sexual persona with a one-night stand situation or something.
Or just fake it because
whatever.
You want it to end on a one-night stand.
Exactly.
Like you're just faking it and be like, oh, yes, it was so good.
Exactly.
You're so awesome.
This is your partner, though.
Yeah.
This is your romantic partner. This is your lover. This is your best friend. This is who you...
Life.
Yes.
Blood, pain, tears, kids, joy.
So they have been so vulnerable with you. And to know that you've never enjoyed our sex life for real, though? No. I haven't, but I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And so this episode is focused on those personas, on the masks that we wear, whether they are helpful, hurtful, whatever they are. We have bully personas, you know what I mean? Where we get huffy and puffy, ego persona, petty personas, right?
Yeah.
They don't really serve us. I mean, they can sometimes when they are needed. Pull them out of your back pocket. You have a persona that helps you step out on stage and give an amazing talk, right? If that's something that you need to do. Those are great. But other personas are super serious. They are vital to your survival. They help you get through really hard things. One of the ways that I wanted to explain it, or that we wanted to explain this a little bit further, to kind of take away that feeling of you were faking it this whole time. The first example I thought of was with a faith crisis. And this might not be relevant to everyone, but maybe, just maybe, it will help someone understand how it can be so ingrained. So if you've been raised in a religion that you are no longer a part of, you are told from the moment you can speak that you believe this, and you are taught to pray, and you are taught to bear your testimony of what your beliefs are. You are sung songs about all of this stuff. You full-heartedly believe this stuff because it has been taught to you your entire life. And this goes on and on and on and on. It never ends when you're in it. You go every single week, maybe twice a week, depending on what religion you're a part of. You fully immerse yourself because it is what you know, it is what you are comfortable with, and it is what everyone else around you is doing.
And you seek confirmation bias from
Everywhere. Literally everything is a way for you to believe even deeper and deeper into whatever religion you are a part of.
I was lost, and then I prayed, and then all of a sudden I found the trail that I was on, and so God helped me.
Exactly. So you look for these things everywhere, and it's damn near suffocating, but it's not suffocating because you're not suffocating until you have the crisis, right? So you are damn near suffocated in all of this because it is that heavy of conditioning of what you're going through and what you believe. And then somehow it finally becomes suffocating and you have to breathe.
Well, and there might even be a point. So there's this thing called the Fowler stages of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And stage 5 is, I was in stage 5 a lot within the Mormon church, where I knew all the history. I knew all the things that were problematic to me, but I could go to church on Sunday. I could speak in a way that was not coming off in a negative manner to people. And I'm using their language in what makes them comfortable. And so that's a mask. Like the mask of being able to go and be in a community and to talk to people in a way that makes them feel safe and comfortable with their own religion.
Right.
Even talking about something in history, but not saying it in a way that can come off negative. And then even though I may have had my own feelings of whatever on a personal level.
Right. So this is the interesting thing, is you have such a strong mask being built from the time you are born, pretty much, in this religious aspect. I mean, it is like an iron mask that is locked on your face. It is a religious persona at its finest. And then you reach a point where this mask is suffocating. It is suffocating you. It is not serving you. You have, it gets thrown off of your face. Someone unlocks the lock. I don't know. And you had absolutely no idea that you had this mask on. You fully believed in what it was that you believed in your entire life. And then you take this mask off, and it is terrifying. It is so painful, but it is so enlightening and freeing. And this is the interesting thing. I don't know how you get raised in something like that without having a mask that's built. Until you take the mask off and really discover how you really feel about it without all the conditioning, you'll still have the mask on, right? Like you have to take it off. And whether that leads you to building up your actual true beliefs, you might go back to, the beliefs that you had, but it's from a genuine place,
Well,
right?
and sometimes you have to still wear the mask around family members
Yes.
or
Oh, yes.
certain friends or certain people. You may act completely one way with one group of friends. You're drinking, swearing, doing whatever, and then you're at game night at another friend's house and you're drinking a Diet Coke and not swearing.
Which is completely fine. And you can
Yeah.
completely handle that.
Yep.
And that's fine. There's a respectful aspect, right? That's there. Or you have a persona that you wear to your grandmother's house, probably to some degree, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at here is that you have no idea that you have this religious mask or something that's been ingrained in you from little until it is gone. You had no idea you were faking it, in quotation marks, and it's shocking to you. It's painful. You have to literally relearn everything all over again. And what I'm trying to say here is that if someone can think of that, if the allo partner can think, oh, they didn't know better. They didn't know their real feelings until they actually had the opportunity to really examine how they feel. Right?
I would say that 90% aren't going to have that reaction.
90% of allosexuals aren't going to have that reaction?
If not higher.
Oh, F.
Because it's hard not to personalize it.
I know, but it can't be like that.
I think there needs to be...
Your partner doesn't want to hurt you.
I know. I think that we've talked with this with people, through chats. But there has to be, if you haven't had this conversation with your partner yet, there has to be, you really have to be careful with how you word it. Not because they deserve it worded correctly, but because you don't want it to cause more damage.
Okay, so from your perspective as an allosexual, what is the best way to talk about this if you have not talked about it yet? Because for you and I we were in the middle of sex. We were literally in the middle of sex and I looked terrified out of my mind and it hit me all at once. Oh my gosh. This is how I actually feel. I had no idea that I was doing that.
I would say
you can't hide anything.
I would say that's probably not the route to go if you can help it.
Right. We didn't. Yeah. We didn't plan that. I didn't plan that, certainly.
I don't know. I think saying I've been learning a lot about myself and I've learned about these different masks that we wear and what that means, or these different personas. Like you might have a work persona, you might have a religion persona, whatever it is. And as I've gotten more comfortable with my asexuality
and more comfortable with you,
I've had some realizations that I've had this sexual persona that helped protect me. And it's not because you did anything wrong, and it's not because, that I don't love you or that you're not a good person or, this or that, but I've had to have this persona to protect me from the expectations of society and religion and patriarchy and whatever it is, or even the other side of what it means to be a man. And that's not who I really am. And I would like to talk to you more about what that means. But it's hard for...
How did you not take it personally? Or did you take it personally and you just worked through it without... me knowing otherwise. Because it didn't, from my perspective, it didn't seem like it was a difficult thing, aside from you looking at me literally while having sex with me and thinking, she's not okay. Something's up here. Her mind is going 1,000,000 miles a minute, and it is a rough one.
I don't know.
Did you feel bad for yourself?
I think, because the amount that you and I communicate,
Mm-hmm.
our communication has always been great.
Yeah.
There's not been a lot of like tension in our marriage as far as like fighting and
Yeah, we tell each other everything.
yeah. So, like I said, the first feeling I had initially was the feeling of relief because I was like, oh, it's not me. So I think I already had an aspect of thinking it was me.
Yeah, but to find out that I didn't really, if I really knew myself, I wouldn't have been having sex with you all those times. And I wasn't enjoying it in the way that you thought I deeply was enjoying it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that I don't know the answer to that because, we've had questions which we never answered the question. Because someone had asked the question, how did Skylar get over, or what was his reaction to realizing he was potentially never going to have sex again?
Right.
So I think looking back at our history and all the things that we did and all the quote unquote fun that we thought we had and the good times
In that way.
Yeah,
but did you have a feeling of being duped at all? Like, I can't believe she faked it. I can't believe that she acted.
No, because I feel like...
Do you know me? Is it because you know me well enough to know that I would never intentionally do that?
Yeah, and that's one thing that I wanted to say was that Jessi is such a genuine person that she, there's no way that she would fake something to fake something because she wants to.
No, and that's what is hard for me. It's painful for me to know that I had this massive persona. It feels so, I don't identify with doing that at all.
I think because of the amount that I was looking into asexuality and trying to understand it, it wasn't something where you came to me and blindsided me with something that I had no history or knowledge of.
Yeah.
So maybe because I had started looking into it more, it was less of a shock. But
you thought, oh, that makes sense.
But even in the beginning, because, we've talked about how, yeah, August happened, but you still, between August and January, you still, participated in that way probably 4 times.
Right, but afterwards it always ended up in tears.
Not extremely in those first 4 times, but you were also going through the phase of still wearing a partial mask or a partial persona.
Well, it was a partial hope is what it was.
Yeah, of being, you were looking more at like, well, if my body can react good, then I'm okay with quote unquote giving this to you.
Yes, I was very much so like, I'm indifferent. For a minute, for a split second there, I was like, I'm favorable. And then I was like, I'm indifferent, trying to just force myself. Like, we even tried scheduling.
So actually, I think that there was a part of me that, and we may have mentioned this in the last couple episodes at some point, where, there was a part of me that fully didn't, I don't think, realize, because you were at a place where you're like, I don't think about it, but if I do think about it and I want to, and I get to the point where I've accepted that I'm going to do it,
wrapped my head around it,
then I want to provide a gift for you, if you will. And that's the language you used in October. You said,
I know.
you know, the beginning of October, you were like, I want to give this to you. Are you okay with that language? Are you okay with me saying that I'm giving you this gift? Are you okay with that language?
It was the only language I could think to use. We didn't even understand just how unhealthy it is to have me wrapping my head around it, doing this for days.
So I don't think it fully blossomed until April.
April, that's like yesterday.
Well, that was the day after our anniversary.
Oh.
That was because even January, it wasn't fully.
Was that the last time we had sex?
No, July 7th, around there.
Oh.
So January 23rd-ish.
I'm sorry. I don't remember.
So end of January, day after our anniversary in April, and July, early July. That's the last 3 times.
Oh, yeah. The July one was the middle of the night thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the one in April,
A doozy.
that was the full-blown ugly cry. Because before before that, you were still thinking like, you know, you were still kind of in that like, if I've talked myself into it, I know that my body's going to react in a positive way.
It'll be fine.
And it'll be fine.
It'll be fine, yeah. And then it fully blossomed. Honestly, it fully blossomed in April where it was like, no, absolutely not.
Yep.
In my mind, everywhere, it was like instant panic. Like, no, we're not doing this. Why are you doing this? And then what's sad is that in July, I don't think you look at that one as like this huge thing, but I fell apart upstairs silently.
No, I do, because that was the last quote unquote hope of like a natural occurrence where you weren't having to think about it.
You mean a hope on my side?
Yeah. Like you thought because it was happening naturally that it wasn't something you had to talk yourself into, that it was going to go well.
Oh, I was so confident that it was going to go totally breezy and fine and well. And then I felt so backstabbed. Like, honestly, I felt so betrayed by myself. Which, you know, led to taking sex off the table.
Yeah, so I think on my end, like, so July happened. You know, I don't know the exact number of times because it was like a couple times in November, once in December, I think, or a couple times in December. So there was still like this gifting, talking yourself into it, trying to be...
Well, and I had used the ovulation time to be like, I'll probably be fine around ovulation because my body's like, we're supposed to do this.
So I think it was this thing where like historically you liked to say, oh, we do it once a week, or, you know, roughly 3 times a month.
The pressure to say once a week is so unreal.
And then it became, well, probably once a month. Because during that time of ovulation where your body's like...
It's almost like a dual persona going on here. The persona that happened in the actual sexual moments that were happening. And then this other persona that wanted to make sure she was performing.
Yeah.
Outside of those moments. Yeah, we do it once a week. Yeah, I'm indifferent. I'm totally indifferent. There's no way I'm not indifferent. Of course I'm indifferent. This is a gift to you. It'll be great. That's all persona. Like,
yeah. So then it became.
I was in so much denial.
So then it was like January happened. There wasn't any crazy thing that happened. So then when the April thing happened, and then the July happened, that's when I was just like, I can't watch you do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not healthy. It's literally your mental health is not worth that. It's not worth you trying to talk yourself in, not because of compliance, like not in a sense because I'm asking you to try to be
No,
on board
it's
with it.
societal pressure and self-pressure to conform and perform.
But I was just like, I can't be a part of that.
I can't imagine being you in this case where you're literally, not to be too graphic here, but you're literally inside of me and watching me fall apart. But you have me verbally saying, I'm fine, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I am not fine. But I am trying so hard to push through, because how am I ever going to make this work if I don't push through? I have to push through.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately I would have come up to say, we need to take this off the table. But I would push myself to a scary limit to get to that point.
What do you mean by that?
I would have been in shambles by the time it would take me to finally give up and proclaim self-defeat and say, I can't have sex anymore. I just can't. I would be in such a bad emotional place. So all I have to say is how important it is that you recognized it to the degree you did and said, no more.
Because you still, I mean, we had this conversation yesterday, possibly, or even 2 days ago. You still don't, I still don't think you're at a place where you want to say, like, you don't want to be the person to say it's off the table still.
I don't. I think there's something there. Like, I make it very clear that Skylar took it off the table. He chose to take it off the table.
And you constantly say to your therapist and to other people, like, when you say that we are in a sexless marriage, that it is difficult for those words to come out of your mouth.
It is. It feels, unfortunately, because of the conditioning that has happened, because of how strong those masks are, those personas are, it feels like defeat. It feels like failure. It feels like, how is anyone ever going to love me and accept that? This is awful. But the truth is that you should only be with somebody that does love you for all of the things that you are. You should be with somebody that's willing to see you and say, we're taking this off the table. I will not be a part of this abuse that's going on in your head any longer. Obviously, you can't take it away from me inside my head.
Nope.
But you can definitely end it with your involvement.
Yeah. And
it sucks because I'm relieved to a degree. I'm still terrified. I haven't worked it all out. That's where we're at. This is brand new. This is baby. Man, we're in newborn stage here of having a sexless marriage.
Well, and we've never talked about what if in X amount of months or years or whatever, you get to a place where you're like, oh, I've actually, I don't know,
I don't care.
Yeah, or something. And because like even right now, like if you came to me and said, no, I'm good and I want to do this, I don't know that I would say yes.
I wouldn't say yes.
So
if I come to you anytime soon, do not believe me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I want you to believe me, but I don't even believe me. Like, there is too much unraveling and deconstructing and reconstructing going on right now, it's not smart.
I think if anything, I would say, well, we can try other lighter stuff.
Okay, yes. If I'm coming to you and saying, I think I've worked through this, baby steps.
Yeah.
The smallest little baby
Let's
steps.
try French kissing. Like the look on your face, you're like, ew.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Things have really surprised me.
Be honest.
Oh no, everyone, oh no.
Did you ever think that I would be the one to say it's off the table? Like, did that catch you off guard?
No. You are, this is going to sound really sad. You are so much more thoughtful and caring of my well-being than I am. Fuck, right? Like, that is bad. But it's the truth, unfortunately, and I am learning so much right now how to be so thoughtful and caring of my well-being. But honestly, you get the gold star here, buddy. Like, no, it doesn't surprise me that you're the one that did that.
Because I could see you thinking, like, with how sexual I was as a person.
You are.
I am.
You are.
That you could be like, there's no way that he would ever purposely, willingly say no.
Maybe 6 years ago I would think that. But Skylar, you care about me way too much to continue violating me if you can tell that I'm feeling violated.
Yeah.
Like, come on. So I know we branched out a bit here, but it is all related. The personas that we have built up, whether we know about them or not, are tricky, tricky things. And if you have a persona that is dying off or has died off, if you need to communicate that with your partner, it's going to be a delicate conversation. If you're the allosexual listening to this, please be patient with your asexual partner. And the same could be said with the ace partner to the allo partner. We know that this is a massive transition of figuring this out. You're in an actual mixed orientation marriage. That is what it is. Especially if you are sex averse or repulsed. I can't speak for every asexual out there. These are my own personal opinions, experiences, thoughts, and it's not going to apply to everybody. But I do hope that there are nuggets in here that you can take. You're not going to be able to take everything. But I full-heartedly believe that we all have these personas, and having them unravel or die off is it's painful. It's really painful. If you can recognize with you and your partner that you're both going through pain, you guys can pull through it together. Even if that means not being together after you go through it, you will be in such a healthier place if you can approach these tough situations with love, kindness, and curiosity.
Yeah, and you really have to work hard at not making it a competition.
Elaborate.
So making...
Oh, like saying my pain's worse than yours.
My pain's worse than yours.
Yeah.
This... I think that was it you that said this? Like, you may have said it just today.
Uh-oh. What did I say?
Did you say... Or we've talked about, like, this idea that, you know, would someone purposely, actively choose to be in this type of relationship?
Oh, I said something the other day about this. I don't think I was in a very good place when I said that. I don't even want to repeat it. It's really not nice to myself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to repeat it.
Okay. Because we've talked about, 6 years ago when I met you, if you would have said, I'm asexual, sex repulsed, and sex is off the table, like, would I have continued that relationship with you? I think you asked me that, and I said, I can't answer that because I can't go off of, I only know what I know now. I can't go off of where I was then.
I just had the most magical thing happen.
What?
This whole time whenever that has been thought of or brought up, I have always instantly thought, not a chance in hell. Not a chance in hell would you continue pursuing this relationship with me if that's what happened. But when you just said that, my instant thought was, of course you would still. Because I would have opened the door and we would have seen each other and the same feeling would have happened regardless of sex. Right? That same magic? There's no way. That's the first time I have confidently felt like he would have picked me still. He would have wanted me still. Because nothing changes the warmth. Nothing changes the instant connection that happened when you sat on my couch and I put my leg over yours as if we had known each other for the last 20 years.
You would be my Meredith Grey.
You're Meredith Grey?
Choose me, pick me, love me.
Oh, you would have been feeling that?
I don't know. Like, I don't know who would have been the Meredith Grey in that thing, but we still would have like seen each other and wanted to continue in that way. Like, well, that I'm right here.
No, do you know why though? Because our relationship did not start off sexual.
Nope.
There was nothing sexual about it. It was kind-hearted. It was genuine. It was deep friendship vibes. There was nothing sexual about the first time we met. Like, it was just magic. It just made sense. But there was no sexual, like, lusty things on my end anyway. I mean, I'm asexual, so I guess there wouldn't be. But don't you agree with that, though? That wasn't on your mind.
Well, I think leaving the marriage, leaving the relationship I was in, and starting a relationship with you, or at that time it wasn't even a relationship. Like, I didn't know, I didn't want for there to just be this instant thing, like feeling as if I was only seeing you or seeking you because I was in my most broken state and you were like a Band-Aid or something. So I think I started off, or I my assumption, or what I wanted to do was be very like protective of myself.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have gotten that.
But I couldn't.
I felt like you were protective of me.
But I couldn't help it.
You couldn't help but not be protective of yourself? You couldn't help but drop all the walls.
Yeah.
Ah, right.
So when someone leaves when someone leaves a relationship, especially if it's not ending in a good way, you tend to be reserved and closed off when you start seeing people
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to be guarded and protect yourself because of what you just left.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do that with you.
It was impossible.
It was instant.
But don't you think that means that it wouldn't have mattered?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered. You gave me a hug for the first time and you said, "I'm so sorry that you've been so lonely." There was nothing else to it.
Yeah.
There was no expectation of anything else. It was two humans that felt this insane connection and just care. Deep care and genuine concern and love. Are we getting too mushy here?
Maybe.
It's so wild. But this whole time I felt very sad to feel like there's not a chance in hell he would have. There's no way. But you would have. I really think you would have.
Well, our first episode was called Soul Bonded.
Yeah.
And so the people that want to throw around we talked about this, many episodes ago with what is it called? When you need someone.
Oh, when you're dependent?
Yeah, codependency.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not a world in where I don't see us together in the way that we are.
In the way that we are. Yeah. It's been such a wild ride, hasn't it?
I feel like we've gone through lifetimes of things in 6 years.
Right? It's really like different books that are a part of a series or something.
Yeah, like divorces, remarriage, our kids intertwining, our youngest now being the age of our oldest.
Yeah. It's all wild, but I'm here for it. You know, there's so much more track on this roller coaster. Buckle up.
We're on book 3 of 15.
Yeah. Oh, don't say it like that. That feels like a lot. That feels heavy.
Well, it could be good books.
Well, yeah. And honestly, most of it is good anyway because you learn so much through all of this.
Yeah.
But yeah. I hope that we covered personas in a deeper way than we have. I think we did. If you have any questions relating to this, if you have any thoughts, feedback, please reach out. We love it. Even if it's feedback that's a bit rough, we still love it. Do it.
These are not easy conversations.
No, they're so tricky.
I don't think that we're trying to come off as that these are easy.
No.
I think with the way that the amount that we talk together all the time, some of these may come off easier for us to talk about because we're already very deep in conversation and open about everything. But when you're figuring this stuff out and there's already some rockiness in your relationship and you don't know why, and then this comes out and then you're having these conversations with your partner, it can be very scary. And it can be very difficult on both ends. And so we don't want people to think that if you're having a hard time talking to your partner about this stuff, that you're weak or that you're not.
No, these are hard conversations. Some of these conversations are the hardest ones that maybe you've ever even had to have. So it makes sense. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. And we're here. We're here.
We are.
So send us a message. Reach out to us. Say hi. And thank you so much to those that have donated coffees. Is that what it's called?
Buy me a coffee.
Donated Buy Me a Coffee. Yeah. That's so kind. Thank you so much.
You can do that through alloandace.com, our website. There's just a little coffee icon link that you can click on, and if you so choose.
Yeah. And, if you're feeling up for it, go leave us a review if you would like to, or share the podcast if you think it could help others around you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. We're so happy to be here recording, and we're so excited to do the next episode.
We don't even know what it's about yet.
We don't, but we will soon.
So until then,
Bye.
bye.